something?
Sure.
Because this is always hilarious to me. In the music school where I had singing lessons, there were two options. You either did classical singing or everything that was not called classical singing, they called jazz. So on my Wikipedia, it says that I have a background in jazz singing because I did both. I did the classical and the non-classical, but they put that as jazz. The thing is, I hate jazz. I mean, everyone who does their research finds Charlotte Wessels with her background in jazz singing, and I'm like, how do I fix this?
Hello, you metal pilgrims, and welcome to the new episode of our interview series on MP2 by Metal Pilgrim. Our today's guest is nobody else but Charlotte Wessels. Charlotte, thank you so much for finding time and joining us today. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's my pleasure. How are things in the Netherlands? How are you guys coping with all the madness? Do you see the light at the end of the tunnel?
It's starting to. Things are starting to open up again.
Mm-hmm.
We need our QR codes and passes, but I might be going to my first gig in a week.
Nice.
So I'm just very excited about getting back into like the world of music and live shows and normality to a certain degree. Yeah.
100%. I think we all are with you on that one, right? I mean, everyone is so eager to go back out there to the clubs, to wherever it is, and just enjoy music the way it's supposed to be enjoyed, rather than digitally. 100%. All right, Charlotte. So obviously, the big news about Charlotte Wessels is that your solo debut, "Tales from 6 Feet Under," has been released a couple of days ago. So first of all, congrats! On finishing it out despite any pandemics or anything going on, around the world. So can you talk just a little bit briefly, just to start, about the creative process behind it and how did it all come together into this one piece we can hear today?
Well, I think that the record is very much comes from the way that I've been working my Patreon community ever since May 2020, and the Patreon community was just really inspired by the fact that when I was thinking about starting it, I just wanted a place for the songs to live that were not going to be like on a Delain album or whatever, because when I envisioned it, I thought that was still going to be a factor. So what can I say about the album? It's a compilation because on the Patreon, I've been releasing a song every month. And I've been picking my favorites out of I'm still going, by the way. I'm working on song number 18 as we speak, and there's been covers and bonus tracks as well. So awesome. a lot of music in the last year and a half. But I've been releasing a song like every month, and I've picked my favorites from the first year because I wanted to do a release to celebrate 1 year of Patreon. That's kind of what inspired this. And for anyone expecting to hear, a similar thing as they're used for me, it will be different because of the very fact that this was envisioned as a place where the things that were not symphonic metal could go. Of course, by now Delain is not a factor for me anymore. So in the last few months, the work on my Patreon has become more to heavier side again. But this record is basically a compilation of every month just me going, what do I want to do today, and then doing it. And that was a very interesting and fun process for me.
This is really awesome. So just to get the record straight, before parting with Delain, you did not really plan to launch a solo career as a side project, and release this record and and go on tour with it, for example.
Well, my main idea was, so I wanted to do something with those songs. That was my main initiative. I was always writing songs, and a bunch of those songs, they fit within what I was doing with Delain, but then there were always songs that didn't. And, over the years, it became more and more, also because I started writing more and more, and I kind of felt sad about those songs going nowhere, no one listening to them. And I thought for a very long time, what do I want to do with these? And it crossed my mind like, well, you could have maybe like another band was crossed off straight away because I always put all my focus on Delain. We were very ambitious. And I thought, well, maybe a side project. But even with a side project, like I did The Deviant Hearts. It was an album I did with Phantasma in 2015. It was wonderful. It was a great experience. But after the release, I felt like I was holding the rest of that project back because, I didn't have the time to tour. There were, like, everything was complicated to combine. And so at one point, I was following a lot of artists on Patreon. I've been a big fan of Amanda Palmer, so I've been following her route to the platform. And I really like the spontaneity of it. I like the sense of community that you can have on a platform like that. And I really like the fact that you can kind of make up your own rules. So that's kind of how I ended with Patreon, because I thought, I can just start with doing a song every month and then we'll see where it goes. And this is where it went. So I was actually very happy that I started the Patreon when I did, because when I was planning the entire thing, I think that one of the last things that I did in preparation to going live with the Patreon was in February of 2020. I was in the US and I went by the Patreon headquarters to talk with some of the people there about what I wanted to do and whether they thought those were good ideas. And that was before COVID happened, and before the band split, obviously. And by now I'm so grateful that through all of that, when all of our tours were canceled, I was still making music in my studio. And then when the band split, if I hadn't already had this, like, I was very devastated by all of it. And I'm so happy that I had something positive to focus on, and that, it was like I can kind of drop into some deep dark hole now, or I can, I have to finish this song. I have a video shoot next week. I have to do the things, and I have this entire community backing me up there. So it was. I'm very glad that I started it when I started it. There was a thought on my mind that said, because I put the release date on May, like very arbitrary. I just thought, it's my birthday, that'll be fun. But then when COVID happened, at first I thought, I cannot do that. I cannot ask people for money during a global pandemic. So the thought crossed my mind to postpone the launch of the Patreon until COVID was over, which I'm glad that I didn't do in the end, because I would still be doing nothing.
It feels like with the band split and with everything that is going on, especially for being together for so long, it's like being in a relationship, right? So if you have nothing to hold on to, except for that relationship, it makes the split just harder. I mean, just like with your boyfriend or girlfriend, or your significant other, this is just the way it is. And I think that, from what it sounds, that little, community that you had around yourself, which was detached from Delain in one way, actually helped you. So it seems very encouraging in a way, Of course, whatever happened, but you have this new journey which started right afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's very much like a breakup or a divorce. But I was glad to have that community, even though that community themselves, like, they largely consisted out of the Delain fans too. So I was also, and this was also something that I was very impressed by, that at that moment, like, it could go several ways, there was also, like, the scared voice in my mind said, oh my God, all your patrons are going to go because they only like Delain. And it's like, But none of that happened. People just, even though people themselves were, of course, also disappointed because it was a band that they like, and changes are never easy. Even if you're on the outside, I know that if my favorite band would break up, of course, it's nothing compared to what the band itself is going through, but I would be disappointed too.
Exactly.
But no, everyone really showed up, and everyone was super supportive. So I've got nothing but gratefulness for that. It really was a safety net.
This is amazing, and you started speaking about this, right? So I think you will agree that many, if not most of your fans who are now fans of Charlotte, but also now they kind of found out about you through Delain and know you as a metal singer. Yet this interval is, without you having any stylistic limitations, of course, took some of your fans who were not part of that, small Patreon, small or not small, but nevertheless, Patreon community, right? I mean, it took them by surprise. So was that a purposeful intention? And I think you already partially answered that, right? Of of not doing the work you did at Delain. But after the split, was there a little bit of the scare of how the fans who were not part of the Patreon community would receive this music, and if they would not turn away from you?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit, in all honesty, because of course, when I started, all of the people who were there from the start, they kind of knew what I was doing there. When I started, there was no, why would I put a metal song on the Patreon if I could save it for our next Delain writing sessions? So it was very obvious to everyone there that I wasn't going to do what they knew from me. So I think that before the split, this was all very, I didn't really. Of course, if I was doing something really weird, I would also always write a message before the release, okay, tomorrow's going to be an odd one, But people usually got excited from that. It made them curious rather than. But after the split, I knew that there were going to be some people who were well, okay, Charlotte's no longer in Delain. Let's see what she's doing with her Patreon. Let's see what her solo music sounds like. And then they were like, what? And I got a lot of concerned messages from fans saying, "Oh my God, do you hate metal now?" And it was no, that's not the case. And I did feel some pressure back then, and still every now and then, to keep explaining that to everyone. But it gets old, you get kind of tired from that. So for now, I just think. If people don't like what they hear, you can't please everyone. And if, because like I said, by now that I don't have that platform for the heavier songs that I write anymore, I'm also taking the heavier songs to the Patreon. So, if they want to join back in when they hear that, then they're always welcome. And I don't really feel like spending too much of my time explaining my artistic choices, so to speak.
Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And with most of the music, and correct me if I'm wrong here, been written, during the pandemic time, what are some of the lyrical lines which are running through the record? And do you think that the pandemic itself has affected your sound and the choice of words on it?
I do, definitely. In some songs, very directly, there is one song that's FSU 2020, which, it stands for Fuck Shit Up 2020. And, I was going through a rough patch, obviously, because in the time that I wrote that song, I was going through some personal things and the global pandemic. And, well, at that point, I wasn't sure that the band wasn't going to work out, but, we had problems that we were trying to solve, and it didn't look like it was going anywhere. So there were just a lot of things that were hard. But yet, usually I wouldn't just, if I was going through a hard time, I wouldn't write a song saying, I'm going through a hard time, because I feel like people people should be able to relate to something. You shouldn't make it and everything about yourself. I mean, sometimes it works, in order to make people feel less alone. If you feel like they might also feel that. But in this case, when I said 2020 sucks, I just knew that a lot of people were going to relate to that.
Not a lot of people will say, no, it's an amazing year.
It was a great year. No, that year absolutely sucked. So that was, for example, a choice to not only write that song in an angry mood, but actually finish the song and put it out. That is something that was very inspired by the pandemic. Same with the song, like, Soft Revolution, No One Here Is Okay, and That's Okay. I think, I think there are definitely certain choices that I made or that were influenced by just the year that we've had. I mean, I think it goes for most writers or composers or artists in general that, they work with what they know, and whether they put things in their art literally is, that differs from person to person. But I think for a lot of people, I don't think you can be unaffected by your surroundings or by your time, so to speak.
Yeah, completely agree. And since we're going, and discussing individual tracks already, there's one on which you're working together with Alissa White-Gluz. So how was it, first of all, working with Alissa, and how did this idea arise overall?
So we've worked together a number of times before within Delain. We're friends, we keep in touch, and normally if we find ourselves in the same city or whatever, we find a way to hang out or collaborate. And of course, we hadn't done that for a while because pandemic.
Yeah.
And Alissa has a Patreon of her own. She hosts her official fan club there, and it's a great Patreon. Like, she works with charities. She shares a lot of photography, poetry, art, and music as well. Obviously, it's a very, very active and interactive one. So recommended. And at one point, both Alissa and I were invited to speak at this talk show hosted by Patreon, the company. It was called The Show Up. So we were both, and they gave us free rein, like, just present your work. Nice. And we were like, well, okay. And when we heard that we were both invited for the same show, it was like, hey, if this was a festival somewhere, we'd probably, So we just thought, is there something we can do together or something that we can show? And we didn't have anything, but we were like, we can make something. So I think we had like 2 or 3 weeks. And we were like, let's write a song. And I think that that's the beauty of a platform like Patreon, is you can just go ahead and do that. It allows you to work very spontaneously. Like, not only Patreon, of course, also the day and age that we live in and kind of the technical possibilities that we have. But it was a lot of fun. It was very spontaneous. It was really a joint effort. It's the only exception on the record. Like, I recorded and produced everything right here. It's the only exception to that. She didn't only do her vocals, but also guitar and drum arrangements. And it was a lot of fun. She made a video for it, so it was a lot of fun collaborating with her in a different setting that we'd done before. And I'm glad that she was excited about having it on the record as well.
This is awesome, and it seems like you guys are really tight. And I assume that she was rather supportive, during the whole February time as well.
Yeah. Like in general, I've been. I'm very happy for the support that I've gotten from not only from fans, but also just from colleagues and friends and family. And
this is awesome. But do you keep in touch with any of your former bandmates, or the split?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's good to hear. So, what is next then? You said, obviously your jazz influences, your other musical, artistic, freedom kind of kicked in on this record.
Can I just say something?
Sure.
Because this is always hilarious to me. So, okay, this is a side note. In the music school where I had singing lessons, there were two options. You either did classical singing or everything that was not called classical singing, they called jazz, because it was kind of an old-fashioned institution, right? So on my Wikipedia, it says that I have a background in jazz singing because I did both. I did the classical and the non-classical, but they put that as jazz. The thing is, I hate jazz. And I mean, everyone who does their research finds Charlotte Wessels with her background in jazz singing. And I'm like, how do I fix this? But anyway, so...
Charlotte, I truly apologize for my...
No, it's fine. It just makes me giggle every time someone says it. And I thought maybe I should explain why it makes me giggle.
I promise this will be moved to the very start of our conversation and uploaded as the preview for the entire interview, so that less and less of such things will happen in the future, Charlotte.
I know. I mean, there's an exception, of course. Like, I had to sing some jazz material, and then I had to find, and like, there is 10, 20 songs that I really love. Like, there's a few artists like Nina Simone, you cannot go wrong, but it's just a weird thought that people think that I spend a lot of time doing jazz, because every time I jokingly talk about one genre of music that I don't like, it's jazz. So anyway,
this is hilarious. Okay, this is hilarious. I get that I'm wrong, and I promise that I'll do my part to, for others to not do the same. So, with the lack of jazz influence in your life, what do you think will be next for Charlotte? I mean, you've already said that you started uploading more, harder, heavier songs on your Patreon. So do you think you will continue as a solo artist at this point, or will we see you as a part of, another symphonic metal project maybe at some point, and then you keep your solo work separately? Or what do you think would be best for you?
So this is kind of, I get this question quite a few times, and it's quite recently since the split. I can tell you how I feel about it, but I must put a disclaimer with it that I feel different about it from time to time. Like, I feel different about it now than I did a few weeks ago. And so it's kind of changing, and I don't want to put this out there as like, this is what I'm going to do. But if you ask me where I am mentally...
Don't sign a contract with your blood?
No, it's absolutely fine. But sometimes it's like, sometimes you say you had jazz lessons, and then it's on Wikipedia, and then people kind of stick to it. So just as a disclaimer, I will keep doing the song every month, because I'm still learning. Like, I'm learning so much from it. I really enjoy it. The way the Patreon is working, like, I absolutely love it. At the same time, I also want to do more long-term projects again. So, and especially for the heavier songs, like if you have these electronic songs, I think the way that I'm doing it now, just everything here and everything, electronical beats and programmed drums, it works fine. But for the heavier songs, I think a lot of it needs a more organic approach. So it would really benefit the songs if there was an actual drummer drumming, if there was an actual guitarist playing the guitars, Yeah.
I'm all pro natural, way of writing music, so heavier music. So I'm
yeah. So and this takes more time. So I used to do that with Delain, of course, but I noticed when I was doing Delain, I missed a more spontaneous way of working. And now that Delain's not there anymore, I kind of miss, again, kind of the longer stretched projects where you write something and then you rewrite it. So I'm planning to have both within what I'm doing at the Patreon. I'm also thinking of a return to the stage, and I am really enjoying how I am doing this, what I'm doing now, and I don't really feel like I'd have time for anything else. So for now, I think solo is the way to go.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
You're planning to take this album on the road sometime soon.
Yeah.
Hopefully. This
No,
is
maybe not album, but the songs from the big
your
general.
personal these songs.
Yeah.
This would be really interesting to see you on stage, because I think, again, myself, I know of Charlotte as a symphonic metal singer, and your presence on stage for me personally is associated with what I've seen so far. But I'm really curious to find out how you will take slightly different type of music on the road as well. So whenever you're in Kyiv, Ukraine, or if I'm somewhere in the Netherlands or somewhere else, would love to see you live.
I mean, it will probably be a while until it happens because of COVID, everyone's planning very far ahead, so dates are booked.
And it's going to be a traffic jam on the road soon.
Yeah, exactly. So it might also be that I choose to focus on a specific type of songs from the Patreon, so how much it will be different or like what people know, I don't know yet.
That's good. On this encouraging note, if you don't mind, we have another minute, I think, and then this is it. Do you think you will have a time to tell one craziest story which happened to you on the road?
A crazy story from on the road?
Yes.
I think I mean, by far the craziest, I've told this a couple of days ago in an interview as well, so I'm kind of thinking maybe I should tell another story now, but I mean, this is by far the craziest. It's the time that I got arrested right before a show for riding on a stolen bike, but I didn't know it was stolen. Like, I didn't know. Like, I had it for years, and it was bought at a shop, but apparently the shop was... So I got arrested, and then I was still at the police station, like, I think as the opener started playing or something, and they rushed me like into the show at the very last minute. Like, I came into the venue while they were doing changeover already. And then I kind of rushed straight from the police station to the show, and I was feeling very weird. And I remember the guitarist, he said, because I was, not there yet, the guitarist was like, "You have to excuse Charlotte, she had a really bad day," and the entire audience went, and then I was like, I was arrested, and then the entire audience was like, "Yeah."
This is breaking the law, Judas Priest moment.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's the crazy story that I can tell. The bad thing is about the craziest story usually have one or two people in them who would prefer if you don't tell the story. So but this one is just about me. I'm the only victim here, so
this is good. It's safe to share it. Charlotte, thank you so much for joining us today. I don't want to keep you here for too long. Any last message for the fans, both old and new? Anything you want to share with them?
I mean, thanks so much for checking out this interview. Thanks for checking out Tales from 6 Feet Under. If you have, I hope that I can return soon, and maybe we meet on the road or on stage. That would be wonderful. And yeah. Perfect.
Thank you so much, Charlotte Wessels. Everyone, Tales from 6 Feet Under is already out via an Apple Records, so make sure you check it out. It's a really fun and interesting journey. Charlotte, thank you so much. Keep rocking.
Thank you so much. Have a good night. Bye-bye.